Over the last couple of months, when we spoke to a number of people, we asked the question, how did you get involved in youth work?
Completely by accident.
The reason I joined, believe it or not, was because a guy who lived 2 doors down from us came and said, "You're coming to the BB."
I went to, from a very early age, the Boys Brigade, Life Boys, BB, Junior Officer, Queen's Badge.
I discovered youth work through church connections and felt the power of how non-formal education could bring somebody who wasn't winning academically into a situation of development and confidence.
I suppose I got involved in youth work first because I was a member in a youth club. I went to that youth club. I went to that youth club because my family went to that youth club.
Well, I was involved in the one of the scout troops in South Belfast.
Well, I got into youth work basically from a friend of mine who was already a member of the Boys Brigade junior section, or the Life Boys as was known those days.
I think what I really wanted to do was to work with young people, but also to have good summer holidays, and those are the two things that led me into becoming a PE teacher.
Well, I suppose it was in the family. I was a member of the Girl Guides as well.
Going back home, and I actually joined Adventure Playground Association, and which was a very interesting formative experience. You know, I didn't know what I was doing.
Started off in the 50s as a cub and made my way up right through to Queen Scout. And then I became a scout leader of a troop in White House, First White House.
Well, I can go back to the 1950s when youth work wasn't very sophisticated. It was basically in a church hall on a Saturday night, and youth work comprised of table tennis, darts, and a tuck shop. But it gives the opportunity for the older teenagers to become supportive of the younger ones.
My parents were voluntary youth leaders in the local church youth club, and they ran a disco on a Saturday night. It was the height of the Troubles. It was the top of the Shankill Road, and it was known locally as the Westie Disco. I was in the very first ever beaver pack in the world, which was West Belfast 77th West Belfast Beavers.
My background's faith-based.
I'm quite late on to youth work. I did a degree in ceramics.
I was lightly involved in youth work as a young person, mainly through sport.
I suppose growing up I was always involved in youth work, so I came from a community that I suppose we struggled at one stage. There was a lot of issues, and a lot of members of the community decided to get together and come up with a community association.
This guy rapped my door and said, "Sammy, you go to Queen's, don't you? I want you to look after the kids." And there was a church hall up the street. He said, "We're going to open the church hall." And I was designated youth leader.
I would have been a very active member of Girls Brigade up until I was 18 and went to university. When I qualified from university, I joined the Belfast Education Library Board.
I didn't set out to go into youth work. I had a notion that I wanted to work with people.
Well, I was a member of a youth club, you know, late 50s, early 60s. It was the Parish Youth Club, West Belfast, St Paul's.
In St Patrick's Youth Club in Carey, with a full-time club there. Youth worker in charge was a worker called Michael Hamill. And it's just somewhere like where we went with our friends. In some sense, it nearly seemed to be a bit new. It was something that was a bit unique.
Well, I started my career as a teacher, and after a few years I became head of PE in Castlederg High School, and ran a little youth club, a voluntary youth club at that time.
It was a gradual process. I was always involved in youth in some way or other, even back when in Derry, for example, in 10 or 11 years of age. All the boys from the district, we would hire out, if somebody locally had a good shed in their backyard, we would have hired it out and made our own club.